What you're seeing in front of you is the Panzerwehr, or also known as the Tiger. A German heavy tank armed with a powerful 88mm Gay WK-36 cannon which can penetrate up to 165mm of armor. It's a beast of a tank, but many of you don't really know how to operate its mighty 88mm cannon because you can't read its cannon sight. Well, it so happens that I figured it out, sort of. Let me show you what I mean. Here we are. What you are seeing is the German Zeiss Turmsulfernrohr 9B sight. So far it looks easy to understand, just move the range onto the dial and fire, but how do you find the range? Well, for that there are two methods. We'll start off with the more difficult one. Pull out a calculator. We are going to have a bit of math in this section. In order to go any further I have to explain to you what these little triangles mean. These triangles have a certain value to them in the form of stretches. However, I'm going to make it easier for you and we are going to call them units. The big triangle in the middle is equivalent to 4 units. The smaller triangles are a value of 2 units and the space between the triangles are 1 unit. In order to find the distance of our target we have to fill out this equation. The width divided by the naval height times 1000. In order to find the width, we set up our triangles like on the screen. Also, something I forgot to mention earlier is that this method works a lot better when your enemy is facing you or you're looking at them from behind. This vehicle is 1.5 units wide, so we put a 1.5 in the equation. Next is the naval height. The naval height is determined by measuring how tall the center of your opponent is. For example, this vehicle's naval height is 4 units, meaning that the naval height will be 4. So, we then put that into our equation. So, our final equation is 1.5 divided by 4 times 1000, which equals to 375 meters. Let's see if we are right. Bullseye.
Panzergranate geladen.
Now let's try it on this tank. It has a width of 1 unit. A naval height of 2 units. Meaning our equation is 1 divided by 2 times 1000, which is equal to 500 meters.
Fliegeralarm! Ziel abgeschaltet!
Panzergranate geladen.
Alright, final one. This one has the width of 0.75 units and 1 unit tall. So, 0.75 divided by 1 times 1000 is 750 meters.
Ziel zerstört!
Panzergranate geladen.
The second method actually comes from Navatone Tutorials, who also made a guide on how to aim the Tiger's cannon. Link to his video in the description, and I highly recommend you go to his video for a more in-depth explanation on how he does it. I found that this method focuses more on estimation rather than accuracy. Which is why I recommend you use this method when facing enemies from the sides, as you can land your shots a lot easier, but from the front and back still work. So here's how this method works. You choose your target and you estimate the range your enemy is at. For example, let's use that KV-2. I am assuming it's between the range of 600 to 800, which we then take the mean of. So 600 plus 800 is 1400, which we then divide by 2, so we end up with 700 meters is what we estimate. Then we find the height in units and divide it in half before turning the answer into meters. For example, the KV2 is 4 units tall, so if we cut that in half it's 2 units, and if we turn that to meters it's an additional 200 meters. Making our answer so far 900 meters, but wait, there is one last thing to do. We then have to subtract 100 meters if our distance is greater or equal to 600, or subtract 200 meters if our distance is greater or equal to 1100 meters. So, with that, our final estimation is that the KV2 is around 800 meters away. One last thing, make sure to place the center triangle just below of the KV2 to account for the shell drop off, and once everything is done you may fire at will.